Call or text us here at 875-KTGR to tell us what you think about that Mizzou quarterback news for today. Really? Why are we doing it like this?
I'm going to let you talk first because I know that I tend to sometimes bring an approach that you don't always agree with. So I'm going to let you have the opportunity to tell me what you think this means if we're taking Pete Thamel at his word, which I'm going to let you know that you should.
Yeah.
Okay.
He usually does not get things wrong, right?
Not about Mizzou.
No.
His source can be trusted with Mizzou.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this, Andy? Because we have said that if you go half by half, feels a lot like 2023 felt, and we know what kind of quarterback competition that ended up being. We advocated that if there's truly zero separation between Sam Horn and Beau Pribula, you got to give both a look with the starters on the field. You got to give both a look in this game when the game is still hanging in the balance. Per Pete Thamel's report, that isn't the way they're going to approach it. Your thoughts?
Beau Pribula is probably the starter then. Like, that's how you treat this if you're going to go first half, second half. Like, if you are, in fact, going to really let both guys essentially show what they can do against the top defense on the other side, it's not to say that the defense itself is of high caliber, but it's the best they got. Like, it's the best you got to try and see what both quarterbacks are in a game day situation. If you're going to do that, then you let them both play in the first half. And however you want to split them up, fine. But no, that's not what they're doing. So I would think that if they're going to treat it the same way as 2023, then I will try not to be duped twice by this and say, like, they're actually going to be a competition as to how they go. No, I mean, if this is how they're going to set it up, Pribula in the first half, Horn in the second half, well, I mean, very clearly Pribula would have the lead in this sense, like that just taking the first snap probably solidifies that. But if you are really going to evaluate and you're still going to let Sam Horn win the job based on what he can do in that game, well, then you give him first team reps. And that means playing in the first half of the game. Plain and simple.
And that's not what they're doing because Pete Thamel said it's not. And again, I trust his source. So what does that mean about what this quarterback competition was? Because you'll famously recall, I told you there wasn't one. And then we insisted
well, that's
all
not
throughout
right.
camp.
Like, it still was one. It still was
Hold on. Slow down. Let me get it out. All right? I told you there wasn't one. I told you Beau Pribula would be the starter. If this ends up the same as 2023, will you acknowledge to me that 2023 wasn't really to the nail competition to the end?
Well,
like
not to the end.
When did it end?
Probably sometime during camp.
Okay. When did this competition end?
Probably sometime during camp.
Thank you. So it is the same, though, in many regards.
Yeah,
you can't tell me
know.
It's different if this is what they're doing. You cannot tell me that this was genuine, zero separation. Pribula's the starter, and for the most part, he always was going to be. We can finally admit it now. We're free. We're free from whatever weirdness this was. I don't know why we decided to do it this way.
Because they had a combined zero college starts between each other, and that wasn't the case with the competition 2 years ago. So actually, there is a reason to acknowledge this as more of a competition than it was 2 years ago. There absolutely is. Like, the evidence is all there. It can still end up the same way of us saying that the guy we all thought to be the starter ends up being the start. That's fine. Doesn't mean that the competition never existed, and it doesn't mean that it was more heated potentially than it was 2 years ago. They can still be separated as their own things.
Yeah, but we were told zero separation. Clearly, that's not true. You're going to acknowledge that, right? I mean,
there can be less separation than there was 2 years ago, for sure.
No, I'm talking. I mean, there was zero separation a week ago. That was what the word was. That wasn't true. And that's okay, but I'm not going to pretend like it is something that it's not.
Well, we won't take it at the word of Drinkwitz saying that it's essentially 50-50. Like that.
Yeah.
I've said that it's probably not 50-50. There's probably some fractions in between the two, and what one guy does a little bit better versus the other one, and then the give and take between that. Like, no, I did not expect this to be 50-50.
It's very clear, though, now.
It's more clear now. Yeah.
What this was.
For
which,
sure.
again, it could, again, if I'm a little surprised, actually. This is the first time I've been surprised in this entire thing, because I told you all of camp in December, I told you Pribula would be the starter. And then all of camp, I was like, all right, they're insisting it's a real competition. Okay, if that's the case, let's take it to its logical conclusion. Give both guys a look in the first half when it's meaningful, and then I'll believe you. But we're not going to see that. Pribula was the guy with the edge, whether that's an edge in performance or just an edge in like some will say, oh, yeah, I knew it since the NIL. Well, whatever. Whatever it ends up being is what it is. But clearly, if they're not having Sam Horn play the first half, I hope they let him throw the football, because they really didn't do much of that in 2023. I guess Sam Horn is cool with the way that's playing out. I just can't now, seeing Pete Thamel's report, I cannot imagine it being anybody else but Beau Pribula, which was kind of already true, but now I'm emboldened in that stance because they're not even going to let Sam Horn play in the first half, which is fine. You know what happened 2 years ago? They didn't let Sam Horn play in the first half, and Brady Cook was the right decision. I believe the right decision is ultimately being made here. The winding path and the preference of doing it this way is interesting to me. I don't know the rhyme or reason. I mean, Drinkwitz, after 2023's South Dakota game, stood at the podium and said, we got to look at the tape to figure it out. Like, that was baloney. It's okay to say that was baloney. Like, they knew what it was going to be. Why we insist on doing it again this time, I don't know. But I'll give Drink his credit on this. The guy never winks. He doesn't wink, right? He says the thing, and then there's no just kidding. Like, he's insisting that this is what it is. So, like, in some world, all we're left to do is take him at his word. But if he would wink, then we would know for sure what it is. He's not going to wink because he's too good at this. He's too good at this. And that's what tells me for sure. The part about, like, obfuscating a little bit for Kansas, that was not a 0%er in this conversation as well. Once you got this close, you might as well just kind of leave up some doubt and say, we're going to play both guys. We're going to let it go. Pribula playing the whole first half, he's starting against Kansas. They won't say it today. They won't say it Thursday, but he is.
I would at least hope that Sam Horn gets more chances to throw on
Me
Thursday,
too.
right? Which, I mean, if he does get more chances to throw, and let's say he throws it pretty darn well, like,
Pribula would have to turn it over multiple times in his half. You know
could
what I mean?
happen. Never know.
No, it definitely could happen,
right?
And that it's interesting. If it's 10 to 7 Central Arkansas at halftime, and Pribula exits and Horn comes in and they win the game handily, well, surely Sam Horn is your starter at that point, right? It would just be a really weird way to do it when we don't expect that score. We don't expect Sam Horn's opportunities in the second half to be happening under any sort of duress or realism. Like, it's technically a game environment, and that's what they said they wanted from both guys. But that's not really the game environment that we're expecting in the second half.
No. And there will be probably a whole lot of handoffs in the second half just because you want to not get guys hurt.
Right.
And you don't want to stretch your defense more in multiple possessions to the point where if you're throwing a bunch and you're stopping the clock, or you're getting chunks of yards and you're scoring a little more quickly against whoever might be on the other side, well, then your defense is out there again for maybe an extra possession that you don't really want them out there for. The other thing that's tough with this is that, well, are we going to see Matt Zowers? Like,
no.
I would like to see.
We will not.
Like, both quarterbacks do the job of building up the lead well enough so that you can throw the true freshman out there and just see what he's got. Like, that's also, I think, a downside to this, that we don't see what could be coming after, but probably best case scenario this season. And then Zowers competes next year as a redshirt guy for the starting job, but probably won't get to see that. And that's, I think, also a bummer.
Yeah, and we talked briefly about this last week where I said I don't think it's a given that we see Zollers, and this is kind of what I meant. I guess I mean, it wasn't a given that we end up seeing both guys in the first half and then decide a quarterback competition based on that. This was always, I guess, a possibility, Andy. It seemed like a way they wouldn't do it again because we all saw through it the first time, but they're doing it again, it sounds like. And because of that, and look, I'll retract it all, Andy, if we see Sam Horn run the offense and it ends up being like kind of equitable and you can evaluate what he did against what Beau Pribula did. But I think you're going to see an obvious difference in the way the game is handled from a game script perspective with the backup quarterback in the game. That's what's going to happen. Sam Horn's your backup quarterback this year. And I think that'll be reflected in the way that Thursday plays out. If I'm wrong and he gets a legit shot and plays, drops back for 25 throws and Pribula does that in the first half, then I'll go, well, different than what I thought we'd get. I'll tell you Friday, be here at 4:00 Friday, but I don't expect to have to tell you that at 4:00 on Friday.
Yeah. And the way that it's set up, it doesn't seem to give Sam Horn the best chance to showcase what he can do in a first team setting. And so, look, if Eli Drinkwitz certainly believes that he can see what he needs to see out of Sam Horn to evaluate him in the second half, great. I don't see that right now. He probably knows more than me. But look, there's still just all this back and forth between like, was this a competition? Was this not? I still believe it was.
All right.
Still believe it was closer than 2 years ago between these two. Someone was always going to take the first snap. So I would have predicted that was going to be Beau Pribula anyway.
Definitely.
Just a little, like if Sam Horn's really in this, just disappointed that he's not getting first quarter snaps in some way, shape, or form. He's
not in it. I hate to say it, which is what I expected and said all along. I just thought if we were going to go this far with it, it is a little bit surprising to see them not take it all the way into the game. Is there any realm in which they just think this is the best way to evaluate two quarterbacks? I can't imagine that that's true.
There's a little bit of one, I would think. I don't know how Eli Drinkwitz does it or not. Like, if there have been different ways that he's done it in the past, I don't know. Certainly hasn't been a head coach much longer than he's been the head coach at Mizzou, so we don't have a whole lot of ways to figure that out. But it would seem, at least to me, a little odd, assuming that you're going to build up a lead regardless of who the quarterback is out there in the first half, to the point where, yeah, we know who's winning this game. Now we're just going to play out the rest of the contest here in the second half, just make sure nobody gets hurt, things of that nature. So, look, I'm sure there's a realm of possibility that he believes he can get a fair, honest evaluation of Sam Horn in the second half. I don't know if I see it. So we'll see what the rhetoric is behind it. Like, I kind of saw through a lot of the rhetoric behind it directly after the game, because like there was I'm talking about 2 years ago,
2023. Yeah.
2023, when he was immediately asked on the field by the TV reporter, like, what'd you think? And, kind of compared the points scored between Brady and Sam at the time. And then said a bunch about Brady Cook in the press conference, about the type of leader he is and things like that. Then he was asked, it sounds like you have a quarterback. And it's like, well, no, we don't.
He said we got to check the tape.
You could tell still that the way it was being talked about in different questions when he wasn't directly asked about it, like, yeah, he really likes Brady Cook, and that's probably the starter. That can still lend a little bit of information into how he feels about right afterwards. And again, we're talking about all of this before we even know what happens in the game too. So like, yeah, we can still leave a little room for, there's a possibility maybe Sam Horn plays himself more into this discussion despite being in the second half and not getting first half reps. But it seems like that's an uphill battle for him.
Because of this alignment. Again, I would not be coming on here today to say all this if it weren't for the Pete Thamel report, which is accurate, that this is the way that they're going to approach it. if we went into the game going, yeah, we kind of still expect to see both guys, and we don't really know beyond that what we're really going to get, we would have been waiting to see, okay, like, how does it break down? Do both guys see first team reps? What's the score when they're in there? How do they perform? I don't think we can really even get to the how do they perform part of this if it's truly going to end up as, yeah, Beau's playing the whole first half, and it's, I just don't know what the way, short of Pribula just going out there and absolutely falling on his face, that it's not him against Kansas. But I just want to remind people that even though you're saying, Andy, now that 2 years ago you saw through it in how Drinkwitz described postgame what he saw, and we can play the clip. He didn't admit it even after the South Dakota game was over in the way that he was asked about, do you have your quarterback? And he gave all these words about needing to evaluate the tape. And, Sam remember the interception that was off the hands of the receiver? And it was completely on the receiver. And to that, he said, well, maybe did he throw it a little bit behind him? And that was part of it. I got to check the tape. Like, that wasn't on Sam Horn. I don't think he was trying to throw Sam Horn under the bus, but he was just saying a lot of words to imply a quarterback competition that flat out wasn't there. And so until I see the distribution of opportunity go different on Thursday, if I'm expecting first half, second half, the only thing I have to kind of look back to as evidence is 2023, which just wasn't an even Steven competition. This was labeled in 25 as even because of your point that neither had started a game before, which was totally true, but it's playing out the same way until it doesn't, because we, seeing first half, second half, can only look back to 2023 and go, well, we know that wasn't real. That competition didn't go into game one as an even Steven. And if it had, you would have saw it play out differently. If we see this one play out differently in terms of opportunity, I'll retract and say, well, clearly this was the difference because you let Sam Horn, run the offense. I just don't expect them to do that based on telling us he's going to play in the second half only.
And it would be tough to open up the playbook so much in that second half based on the nature of the game. Like,
it's hardly worth it when you're up, multiple scores, hopefully. That's not like the safe way to approach it when you've got a game against Kansas the following week. You cannot get somebody unnecessarily banged up so that you can support a quarterback competition that seemingly is already decided. If you had gone a couple drives or a quarter for this guy, a quarter for that guy, and said this is kind of the ones and they're 1A, 1B, that's different. Your starter's going to play the first half and your backup is going to play the second half. We pretended it was a quarterback competition. Until I see differently from Thursday, it's what I always said it was. And I'm not going to